So instead of the gas station or bodega that you currently go to, you need to find one that's either black owned or one that hires black people or one that is sympathetic and empathetic to the community and treats you well.
Yeah.
You support those businesses there, and by support the community, you grow a stronger community. You have better relations with other communities.
We've all heard statements like that repeatedly over the course of our lives, and even more so over the past few months. With the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, it's become pretty much consensus that supporting black businesses is a viable and effective way to empower black communities across the world. But many still don't feel the need to make what are now considered necessary changes. Interest may have surged after the killing of George Floyd, but as predicted, it seems to have dropped again just a few months later.
All right. You can stay on one condition.
Just name it.
Anything.
One of you got to get his hair cut.
Is that the time? I really must go to college now, otherwise I'll be late.
I'm asking who actually benefits from the support and what long-term investments can do for our communities, since the wise men and women behind the doors I'll be knocking on have a lot of experience in the field. I thought it would be great to also look into what it takes to run a successful business, in case, anyone's particularly interested in becoming a multi-millionaire.
Put some money into the business. A year on, they're doing 30 times the amount.
I'm going to start by reading a quote from your website, which says...
The first person I'm speaking to is renowned economist Dr. Lisa D. Cook. She's currently based in America, but her amazing work has taken her all around the world. She even served as a senior economist in the Obama administration's Council of Economic Advisors, and I'm hoping her expert insight can help me understand a little bit more about what's at stake here if we don't commit to financially empowering black startups.
In the countries in which I've lived, there are often people who are marginalized and who are kept out of the economy for no good reason. I've lived in France, I've lived in Russia, Great Britain, Nigeria, I've lived in Senegal. In each case, there are racial or ethnic minorities that haven't been able to participate in the economy in a way that would be beneficial to them and to the broader majority.
How specifically does the economy suffer without racial diversity in business?
There's so many ideas out there coming from so many different quarters. And what I promote generally, because I am an economist who studies the economics of innovation, is the more the better. More people who are able to contribute to innovation, the higher our living standards would be. There should be support of Black businesses, not just the ones that exist, but the ones that could exist. A lot of our innovation comes from new firms being created. 1% of founders who receive venture capital are Black. That's a ridiculously low number. There are a lot of ideas that are being kept out of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial ventures because they are just being dismissed out of hand.
So we hear the stories of where Black people create these sort of self-sufficient spaces, such as in the case of Black Wall Street, but also your cousin Floyd McKissick's Soul City. Could this be the way forward for Black people? And do you feel like spaces like this should exist?
Many by now would have heard of Tulsa, Oklahoma's Greenwood District, aka Black Wall Street. But what about Soul City, a community in North Carolina first proposed by Floyd McKissick? The planned Southern utopia, which should have included homes and industry surrounded by trees, hills and lakes, was meant to combat prejudice and poverty. Built by Black people for Black people was the idea, and though it gave hope to many, didn't quite pan out exactly how McKissick planned.
My cousin's endeavor would have been successful had there not been this racist senator, Jesse Helms, who was determined to undermine it. Because while it focused on African Americans, it invited and welcomed and had resettled people of all races. It wasn't saying this is a Black-only space. It was saying that there are good jobs to be had outside of the typical urban areas whereby African Americans would be treated fairly and everybody would be treated fairly. If you can guarantee fairness for everybody, promote fairness for everybody at least, I think that all people would be better off. So I think that could be a solution, but it would be part of a much larger solution. Cousin Floyd was thinking about was attacking the racial wealth gap along many different dimensions. And it takes a completely different arrangement of living, of an economy for that to take hold.
So according to Dr. Cook, investing in black businesses serves everyone on a macro level. But what about through the micro lens? I wonder what impact, if any, black owners are having on smaller communities.
So today I've come to speak to entrepreneur and founder of watch company Vitae London. His name is Will Adewasi. And if you haven't heard of him yet, perhaps you've heard of some of the people that have been seen wearing his watches. Vitae as a company is quite unique in that the owner's personal mission to support black communities and reinvest into black communities is one that's been integrated into the business model at the company. And I'm here to speak to Will a little bit about exactly why he's decided to do that, also how he does it and what that looks like for the company.
This is the Elmington Emerald with rose gold. So Elmington is actually the estate that I grew up on in Southeast London, Camberwell. I wanted to name a product after my estate just to inspire the next generation coming out.
So I'm actually going to read a quote from your website to start. It says, based in London, England, we combine beautiful minimalist watch design with maximal social justice. So what exactly does this mean and why have you decided to do this?
The brand's called Vitae London, Vitae being Latin for life, so our whole mantra is to be the fashion brand changing lives. So in essence, whenever we sell a watch, we help support a child through education across sub-Saharan Africa. Watches have always been known as that thing that you wear as a status symbol to show how much you earn and how much you can acquire for oneself. But we're trying to flip it to show it as a status symbol of giving, as a status symbol of impact. And it's motivated by like my family line. My dad was the first in my family line to learn to read and write, and that broke that cycle of poverty for us. And I just think about all the wasted potential across the continent. So I'm just using my love for fashion to combat that. And I feel as a people group, we will never be truly respected on the globe until back home is better, until home is respected. So I feel like those who have the vision to and those who can should be returning home to try and build, to try and create industries, to try and look at if we can have more factories on the continent, if we can increase our output. Because if we increase our output, it gives us more power on the global stage.
Generally speaking, on the consumer side of things, would you say that black people are a major contributing factor to your success?
Black people have been the core of us succeeding. They've been at the heart. We've been able to tap into all sorts of demographics. But I would say the core of our market has been the culture. It has been, because a lot of people are like, oh, black people, we don't support our own. And I think there might be some truth in that to a certain extent, but it hasn't been what I've experienced. I've experienced a community that's been behind a vision and behind a mission from day one. We've seen some record-breaking months recently, which has been super encouraging. And I just hope this isn't just a fad. Until we have economic power, until we have strength in finances, we can't actually command and demand anything we want. We can scream equality, we can shout for it, but until we're economically free, until we're economically stable, in a capitalist society, it's near enough impossible to make movements and changes without capital. So I think it's important that we pour into our businesses, but then we also hold those businesses to account to see what they're doing to intentionally give back into our communities so that that money stays within our community, so that we can have more of a power and more of a say in terms of policies or in terms of anything.
Today I'm in London meeting talented fashion designer Khadija Kanu, who decides to set up her business in the West African nation of Sierra Leone, even though most of her clients are based in the UK. This is all in a bid to contribute to the economy in a country her family calls home.
So your business is set up in the UK and also Sierra Leone. Why did you decide to do it like that, and what does that model look like?
So I always wanted to provide my clients with mid-market values. Setting up the business here in the UK, it will automatically take it to a luxury level, which I really didn't want to do. I want the typical millennial to afford my clothing. I started to look into various areas, and Sierra Leone, it seemed fit. With that came helping my people. I've always had a deep connection for my country, and me traveling in the last 5 years, my main aim was, what can I contribute? Because it's all nice to have this brand and do fashion shows, but it was just real key for me to help my people in any way possible. And I saw an opening for that with KK Freak through employing tailors, through using Sierra Leonean models, through promoting Sierra Leone, agriculture and etc. I did my first campaign out in Sierra Leone. I hope that KK Fruit being partially set up in Africa will achieve just to inspire the young youth to see that, it is possible. I think there would have been a big difference if my business was fully set up in the UK and I go over there, just preaching to them, you can do this and all of that. But them seeing that I've made it work with the resources that, are available to them, I hope it will inspire, especially the females. Like, I'm all about the female empowerment. So I just hope that they're looking to me as someone that they're like, okay, if Khadija can do it, I can do it too, so yeah.
Moses Osabanjo is new in the entrepreneur game. He's a medical doctor part-time and part-time hair loss connoisseur after him and a couple of friends started the company New Fade.
We see ourselves as a male grooming service that primarily focuses on hair loss. We created a subscription service in which you just pay a monthly fee and you have certain perks. So you have the installation of the hair, you can come for maintenance appointments, trims.
Was it a risk, do you think, starting a business that only Black people really could support, especially at this stage?
No, because we felt the market was large enough in terms of Black guys solely within the UK. We felt like we could actually produce a viable business just catering to guys that look like us.
So one of the things that I keep hearing is that a growth in Black businesses could eventually lead to a reduction in the Black unemployment rate. As you guys continue to grow, is hiring more Black people a priority of yours?
Hiring Black people was very important to us. Amongst the founding team, there are 3 of us. Then our extension, the barbers, our sales team, customer success team, all Black. There's an element of, if you're creating a Black business or Black-owned business and you're servicing some of the people that, people like you do want people who are like you working for you. It's very simple. For me, the importance of hiring Black people stems from growing up. My dad was a lawyer who owned his own law firm. Now, going there as a child, what I saw was everyone like me. The lawyers, all Black, Nigerian, Jamaican, Ghanaian, cleaners, secretaries, everyone, all 3 floors. So kind of being within that environment, I realized how successful you can be doing, right by your community.
Now, a lot of the business owners I spoke to throughout my research were concerned about the short-term spike of support. Moses, however, predicted it. He feels that if a company is not good enough, no one should feel pressure to buy into it.
I struggle to believe that people's intention is going to be to invest in Black-owned companies. Most people just want to go about their daily lives. And yeah, I'm not too sure whether what's happening on social media, really hits home for a lot of people. That's where I do believe it is a fad. Ultimately, if we're not going to serve them, give them, what it is, then of course it's not something that people are going to, be aware of. We tend to narrow ourselves into the type of things we do and what we offer. That's actually the point we need to get to, is Are we producing companies with variety, and are they actually good enough? How we get there is another question, because we need investment and we need support. But ultimately, it's only going to start mattering if we can get to those elements where we actually are providing services and products and solutions across a whole range.
But how do we get to the point where Black-owned businesses can grow to become large-scale corporations? Both Moses and Will spoke about the massive impact a group called 10x10 had on their pursuits in the early stages of development. 10x10 is a network composed of some of the most prominent Black entrepreneurs and investors in the UK. Today, I'm meeting with the founder, Andy Davis, who began the network to address the racial gap in business.
It's a group that's been going for 5 years of Black founders at the early stages, and a group that's had a few offshoots. So now there's an offshoot called 10x10 VC, comprising of all the Black VCs or venture capitalists in the UK, and another group comprising of Black angel investors to invest in Black startups. 10x10 is this place where Black people just care for other Black people so deeply. We care like you're our blood, and we just want you to win. Invest in something called Trim It. Trim It's an Uber for haircuts. So open up the app and a van comes to you and gives you like a 12-star wonderful hair experience. Invest in something called Galdem, which is an online magazine for Black women and non-binary people. Invested in Afro hair products called Afrocentrics, products for Afro and curly hair, founded by 2 incredible Black women. They're a very fine example of what opportunity does. Last year when I invested, and WeWork also invested in the business, they were making about 2 to 3K, 2.5K on average every single month for ages, because they were hitting a ceiling on how far they can go given their resource. Put some money into the business, a year on, they're doing 30 times the amount. That's just a story of Black people everywhere. I say all the time, level the playing field and we dominate. And they're a very clear example.
So, as I'm sure you know, the statistics regarding how many Black businesses are able to gain investments is quite low, quite shockingly low, to be honest. And why exactly do you think that is?
One is just systemic racism, right? But once you move those folk out of the way and they're gone, there's cultural differences, which people don't have. I think when you go to make an investment in a business, you're kind of looking at the founder thinking, I have to go on a journey with you now for 10 years and support you in some capacity. If they're not like you, investors pattern match all the time, then you're less likely to want to build a great relationship with them. The third thing is there's not enough Black investors. On the startup side of things, in venture capital, there's, at the early stage, it's literally myself for now.
And how can a Black business go about getting an investment?
Do not do anything for investment. Just focus on customers. Sell. Sell some products, get more users, get more customers. Literally just work on your business, get results, and then reach out to investors and have conversations, let them know that how your business is going and that you need extra resources to get to the next point.
What are the things that investors like yourself look for when investing in businesses?
What Black founders do a lot is talk to investors about just what they're doing. What they should be doing is sending me your mission and vision straight away. I'd go to pitch and say, imagine the world in 30 years' time, right? Our solution will be at the forefront of this because the problem is so big and the alternatives are so crap, and that's why we're building this thing. And this will be in everyone's house or in everyone's home, everyone's life in 30 years' time. And we're that company today. Out and back, founders who can run through walls, people who want to take markets and have big ideas and have no fear.
2020 has shed a hard light on inadequacies within our society, and in some way or another, Black people continue to bear the brunt.
Most Black firms are underfunded relative to white firms, and they're in a particularly precarious position vis-a-vis the COVID crisis, the COVID pandemic. Mainly because they're underfinanced, number one, and number two, they're concentrated in the service sector, the part of the service sector that is front-facing, public-facing.
Despite this, I've seen a resilience and determination in everyone I've spoken to that gives me a lot of hope for the future of our communities. There are a lot of people banking on this not just being a 2020 fad, but something everyone is persistent and consistent with in 2021 and beyond.